All right, let's go, everyone. And have we got a great episode for you tonight? It is another episode of the LA Poker Roundup. This is episode 35. It is the 30th of April, the last day of the month. And we have very special guest, Mr. Cavin Casino, tournament director down at the Gardens, everybody's favorite place to play in LA, it seems like these days. We've been spending a lot of time the last few weekends there, and we are going to pick his brain about everything. You know, this man a mystery to me, honestly. I didn't know much about Cavin before last year, and now,
Me neither. Yeah.
yeah, but we want to know everything, man. So we are going to dig into it tonight. Welcome, Cavin.
Well, thank you guys for having me. You guys, I've told you in face to face, and I've told you online as well. So this is really great. But really appreciate all you both are doing for the LA poker community and just the poker industry as a whole. And I know a lot of players feel the same way. I speak on behalf of obviously everybody in the industry as well. When players do get involved in a constructive and productive way, as opposed to like Derek, you're always talking about. You guys aren't here to criticize. You guys are here to give information, have that dialogue open. And so anyway, I haven't missed any of your shows. So just so you know,
Awesome.
I mean, I'm usually not live watching them. I'm usually about an hour or two behind by the time I get to it. So I'll catch tail end of chats maybe or something. But usually when I get to it, it's late at night. But I definitely try to never miss one. I don't think I have missed one
Oh,
actually.
wow.
So
Yeah.
I don't always watch them like I said live. I generally don't, but I do get them within the 24 hours that they come out. So I appreciate you guys and everything you guys have been doing for the community.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Kevin. Thank you, buddy.
Yep, and we appreciate you and the support you're giving us, and we appreciate the events you put on. So, the chat is blowing up, man. You better keep your eye on
Yeah.
this chat. They got a lot to say to you. Someone's really disappointed that you aren't in your signature jacket and tie. But we got a lot of ground to cover tonight. I'm gonna just jump right in. Let's just jump right into some of the results. We are dead in the middle of the SoCal Special happening right now down at the Gardens. You can see it right behind Kevin. And this past weekend, we had a number of really excellent one-day events. So let's start out last Friday. SoCal Spring Special event number 5 ended in a 5-way chop. Very familiar faces there in this picture here. Taking the top spot in the chop was Edward Liu. Wow, say that 5 times fast.
Oh, nice. Good job, Ed.
Yep, good old Eddie Liu. I was talking to him on a break I think on Saturday, and he was saying he hadn't really come to the Gardens too often, but he's really thinking he's going to be coming a lot more often now. It's like it's pretty far for him, but obviously he had some success here. He liked the event, and also in this chop, number 2, Sam Weiss, legend, local legend here. Number 3, Nick Dizes. 4, Edgar Ardon. And 5, Cheng Cheng Fan. I remember playing with Cheng Cheng a couple times. He actually was number 3 in the Memorial Day tournament last year that I took down. So he's also a very, very successful regular over there at the Garden. So congratulations to these guys.
Cheng Cheng
Congrats.
definitely makes his mark, when he plays there. So he does come quite often. And he's got pretty good numbers there behind him. So yeah.
Yep. And you know what? Hey, if you're listening, Chen Cheng or Hendon Mob, I noticed that I think there's something weird about his name. Sometimes the Hendon does this. He's actually got 2 Hendon profiles under slightly different names. So I think they got to combine those for the guy. One of them's like
Yeah.
Cheng Cheng and one's like Chen Chen or something. Like it's
You can just email like
Yeah.
help at Hendon
Yep.
Mob or whatever the
So
number
if
is
you're
for you.
if you're watching, man, I recommend you do that. Send those guys an email. I popped up the rest of the results from that for a moment here. We have a lot of other very, very, I'm not going to read the whole list, but you got them right there. A lot of the regs in here. Myself, I cashed this one. This was the only one I cashed this weekend, unfortunately. Got 23rd there. Almost finished even. Got pretty close. So, unfortunately, Derek, I was looking really hard. I don't think I saw your name on these things. What? I must have missed.
I don't cash at the Gardens. I wish I was like at Lou. I just show up and just start like winning tournaments, but I don't do that at the Gardens.
We actually put a microchip in Derek's neck, so when he walks in,
Yeah.
All the dealers get signaled.
Yep, and they put him at. They save a table for him. They create a special table for Derek that will drive him as nuts as possible, and they stick him in there.
It's working. The chip is working.
Frank says they need to combine for Paul for Phuoc Nguyen. He's got 2 or 3. I think he probably has more than 2 or 3, Frank, and I don't think we'll ever find out what the other names are, to be honest. I think he's got a man of many names.
Yeah, just to touch on that real quick, I've had players over the years, same issues, and they've written a hidden mob, and some have been corrected, some haven't. So I've actually had to even intervene too and get in there, and I've had it, like I said, whether it's Randy versus Randall, or like you said, there's 2, maybe Phuoc Nguyen's, one's for Garden Grove, or one is Cypress, or whatever the case may be. It's just those kinds of things. So, but they're really good at it. Obviously, they're getting a lot of information. So, definitely props to Hindemop. And if they are made aware of it and somebody actually does receive it, they are really good at fixing it. So, big kudos to Hindemop.
Yep. Every time I've emailed them, they've been incredibly responsive. I hear they're getting slammed right now. I mean, as we've been talking about, the number of tournaments going on are it's just incredible. So they really need to find, I don't know, I hope they're making their money over there so they can staff up and keep on it, because they do a great job. Let's move on to Saturday. Saturday was the really big one. Saturday was the 100K guarantee, and as always, it seems like every single time I'm watching your posts about these events, Kevin, you guys are like within a hair, like 5 of entries away from doubling every single guarantee.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going to call it the Gravy Series as opposed to the SoCal Specials.
Please don't. Man, I tell you what, Kevin, I love you, but that's the one meme that drives me nuts that you do, is that gravy thing.
I love it. I actually love the gravy, and then he posts a picture of gravy on Twitter. I love it. It's so fun.
I love the commitment.
So real quick, in the chat, I do want to say hi to everybody that's in the chat. I know it's going to be hard to do that if there's a lot, but Matt Savage, I see, is in there too. So like anybody that is running tournaments, when you can announce to the crowd there that you've met the guarantee in like the first 2 or 3 levels, which is what we've been able to do in this series, that's obviously great. Now our registration does close at start of level 7. I know other ones do go longer, some go a little shorter. We basically give you that second break, but the players have really responded. Obviously, it's great to be able to do that and make those announcements in the 2nd or 3rd level. And the meme comes from Ty. So now that I know that, I'll make sure I DM you a bunch of.
Yeah. Oh, I see them all. I see them all. I comb through your profile for results every week, Kevin. I see it all.
So I did switch it up on Sunday though, because Sunday I did Sunday gravy, which if you know, like Italians, they call sauce, marinara sauce, they call that gravy.
That's true.
And they have that Sunday dinner usually, which is special. So I switched it up. I didn't do the brown gravy or the country gravy. I actually went with the Italian gravy, if you will.
Look,
so
I'm more of an ice cream guy myself, so if you could do like a Sunday kind of motif one time, I'd appreciate that. I don't know, like that, just mixing it up. I don't know, but speaking of that, every tournament this weekend, I really do think you hit the guarantee around level 3, including this one. This one got up to what was it, like 194K or so in the prize pool?
195.8.
195.8. That's insane for a single day tournament.
That's insane.
And congratulations here to. And this one, there was no chop, you said, right? So congratulations to Ramiro Uribe. Got the entire first place prize of $42,000 for a single day tournament. One day $500 buy-in, right?
42K. What a dollar per hour.
Congratulations, number 2, Mark Robinson, another super reg, very successful year he's having. Read his name number of times. Number 3, Samuel Sean. 4, Chris Roulier. 5, Gary, I think, didn't he just chop one of the early events in the series, and now he's 5th in the big one here for 11K. Way to go, Gary. And then, we have Masume Karazmi, Streeb, EJ. Okay, maybe that's what was written for his name. Francisco Lopez, and then Luke Nguyen, Lock Nguyen.
That is his last name, by the way.
Is it Edge or EJ? How do you say it?
It is EJ.
Oh, okay.
Like AC Green, who played for the Lakers, his actual name is AC Green. It's not an acronym or it's not initial.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I would have been less paused if it was like the first name. The last name I got confused for a minute. But yeah, and then old Lockbox win there for rounding out the final table. So congratulations to all those guys. Way to go. And then the final event
job.
of the weekend here, Sunday, was another 50K. This was a bounty event. I was in there getting some bounties. I thought I was going to cash this one too, but I couldn't make it. And I think Derek was just, I think he decided to play the Venom or something, right? I didn't see you around, did I? I don't think you were there.
I did not. I did not play on Sunday. Yeah, I played online.
Yeah, Derek took his licks down there at the Gardens. This is why you don't win though. You got to try. You have to fire max bullets, man. You got to keep going.
Volume.
You got to keep going.
Go volume, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that tournament that I won last year, I fired every single flight or the equivalent of. I mean, you can't quit. We don't quit at halftime here.
Yeah, the only way to get out of the downswing is just to fire until you're out.
Exactly. Or until you're out of money. One of the two.
Yep. One of the two.
Yep, Frank, that's exactly what I'm saying. It should be the cherry on top or the whipped cream, not the gravy. All right, so on Sunday, though, another almost doubling prize pool. It was a 50K guarantee, up to 93.9 for the prize pool. Ended in a 4-way chop. And Cavin was nice enough to share with us the names of all the people here. So the 4-way chop, first place money was Tot Tran. Second place, Lam Nguyen. Third place, Davis Kobier. Fourth place, Thomas No. So congratulations to those 4, chopping it up, taking the bulk of the prize money there. 5th place, my buddy Brian Vo. 6th place, Ronald Swain. 7th, Nikita Nguyen. And 8th, Thomas Okudara, which technically rounds out the final table because, as we all know, at the Gardens, they go 8-handed when we get down to the final 3 tables. So congratulations to all of those guys, especially the top 4 choppers. Way to go.
Yeah, and we got a lot of regulars there on that one too. So it's always good to see. Yeah, I mean, like when you're talking about the no chop on Saturday too, it's and getting over 42K, right? Like, it's just that's what's the dream on poker, right? You walk in, you give out the $500, and then you're walking out with over 42K, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like,
12 hours later,
you're just not doing that in the cash game,
Nope.
Or I mean, although you could get a bad beat jackpot or something.
And the trophy. No, jackpot's still not even that much, though. I mean, and then you get the trophy. Man, I want one of those trophies.
That's trophies are nice.
That's my main regret of chopping for second on that one event was I didn't get that nice trophy. That was the main thing. I was so upset about that. But yeah, it's great to see all the regulars, see them all up there. So it is a little unusual. We'll talk a little later about chops at the Gardens, or if, what your experience has been, because we always mention if there's an unusual chop. I think we saw like a 12 or 13 person chop at some point. We're just like, what the heck happened there? But let's circle back around to that topic, because I want to talk a little bit later about a little bit about structures, a little bit about payout structures, etc., etc. I have one more result I really want to bring up before we move on. This one is not from LA, but it does involve a LA player, and it was one I was extremely surprised to see. So I would just happen to be scrolling through the old Twitter when I saw this guy's lovely face, and I said, that looks just like Larry. What the heck? And in the replies, it was none other but then our Larry, our local Larry, our lucky Larry, our Joe Vile. He has been on vacation in Japan for the last week, and apparently he stopped off at the GG Live Tokyo Poker Club, and he won himself a main event seat from the looks of things. Holy cow.
Nice.
Good job,
What a vacation. This guy's been posting pictures going all over Tokyo, every neighborhood, and the next picture I see, he's got himself a main event seat here, getting the thumbs up from all the folks. Like, holy cow. Way to go,
job,
Larry.
man.
Way to go.
We're always
Larry was on
rooting for you.
Yeah, Larry was on your podcast a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
and obviously much love for Larry. And Larry does come in and play at the Gardens, which so he's played a few times since that podcast, and we've wrapped a little bit and talked on that. So yeah, it's just great to see this success for him.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Like, I mean, on the one hand, congrats, but on the other hand, what a jerk. He just goes to Japan and takes a main event seat away from some Japanese dude or woman or whatever. Come on.
Taking an awesome trip to Asia, just showing up in a tournament and winning it. It's
I know, right? All right, but congrats to him. I can't wait to come back and talk to him about that. All right, so those are our results from the last weekend. So let's get to the meat of the topic. The people want to know. The people want to know all about Cavin Casino. I just learned his real last name this weekend. He won't let me repeat it for fear that I'll butcher it. But Cavin, what could you give us a little bit of background about yourself? How did you get to be?
Everybody. Usually they butcher my first and last name, so it's not like I requested only blue M&Ms or anything here. So like, what's going on here? But Yeah. So, yeah, I'll talk about, I mean, generally you want to know just
Yeah,
about how
how
I
did
got in
you
the
get
industry
yep.
and all that, right?
Yep, how did you get into the gaming industry? You know, what was your entry point? Were you a player? Did you,
Yeah.
what did you do and how did you end up a TD? And you know, what do is this what are kind of your ambitions as a TD?
Okay. So yeah, I would go to the history and all of that.
Mhm.
I know we kind of went over the chat real quick, and I just wanted to give a shout out to the chat before I get started on that. And I know, maybe, kind of go through it, but I mean, I know Jesse and Frank are always on your streams, your
Yeah.
podcast here. So just a big shout out to Jesse and Frank who, are on there. Of course, I see a lot of the other regulars out there. And I see John McLaughlin over there. He's known as Meta John. And I mean, there's just a lot. Obviously, Matt's in there. I see Roy and Jono. And let's see. I'm just everybody. Caitlin's showing a lot of love as well, and just everybody. Brad, if you don't know, guys, Brad in the chat there, he is doing tremendous things to promote the game of poker too. So just want to say a quick shout out. Obviously, I'm not going through the entire chat right now, but just appreciate everybody being here, and obviously these guys are doing a great job of looking at your chat and all of that. So we'll try to mix in some cherry on tops. Okay, moving forward.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
So on that, but so yeah, I mean, I started off as a player. I was an athlete. I was a strategy guy, a game guy. So obviously, video games, sports, just any kind of strategy, card games, all of that. So that is just it's either in your DNA or it's not, right? And so yeah, I mean late 1900s of early 2000s. I'm playing a lot of poker with like the home games and stuff, and then with the whole WPT moneymaker online poker, the whole big boom. Just everybody just really kind of wanted to play tournaments as opposed to cash, and then
Yeah.
so I end up playing and hosting tournaments now instead of like playing a lot of cash games and stuff. And so I used to play cash games at some of the local casinos in LA and stuff. But once the tournaments started, then I really found like what I was good at was hosting these events, right? And I was obviously we always feel every ask a poker player, they're going to tell you that they're good at poker, right? So obviously I felt I was pretty good at poker, but also enjoyed hosting. Just like if you're tailgating, it's just fun to barbecue and just kind of host people. So I found I was doing that a lot, and then I actually was working. I was helping out with nonprofit organization, and so I said, so I started running some charity events, and that's how I actually started tournament directing. Is I was a tournament director essentially for a nonprofit and we did satellites to get people to the WSOP and the WPT, and this was back in like 2004, 2005. So that's how I really got started in that aspect of being a tournament director and structures and just all of that. And then so we started running events, satellites essentially at card rooms, right? So I had a friend that had worked at the bike, but then he had gone down to Hawaiian Gardens Casino. And I'm a South Bay guy, so South Bay of LA. So
Oh.
that's like, Manhattan Beach, Torrance, Redondo Beach. Really grew up in Torrance. My grandparents in Manhattan Beach. So somebody said Hawaiian Gardens Casino. I'm like, what is that? Where is that? Right? Because like, we obviously had Hollywood Park. There's Hustler. We knew about the bike and Commerce. But I'm like,
Yeah, I know
what
when I first heard of
where
Hawaiian Gardens, I was like, "Is that doesn't sound like LA, Hawaiian Gardens? That's where."
Right. I thought we were getting on a plane, right? We
Exactly.
were
Yep.
going to Hawaii. So, but yeah, it's actually the smallest city in LA County. It's right on the border of Orange County and LA. It's just tucked away right there by Long Beach, and Long Beach is essentially one of the biggest cities right in LA. So just as far as that goes, so we actually ran a charity event at the Hawaiian Gardens Casinos, which is what it was called back then. And so we sent people to the LAPC, we sent people to the WSOP, and all of that. So it was a really cool charity aspect of it, to where 50% of the money went to the charity for the kids. It was a and then the other ones went to get players to go play in the event. Um,
Awesome.
so that's how I got started with that, and then so I got to know the people there at the Gardens Casino, and I wear a lot of different hats. So I'm also licensed, real estate broker and financial advisor, and with income taxes and all kinds of stuff to do with like property management, rentals, and just all of that real estate world.
Yeah,
And
you're involved with, you said Ambrose Realty. Is there, you want to tell us a little
yeah,
bit more about how that is? I noticed the name sounds awfully familiar. Is that something that started in your family?
yeah. So my father's name is Ambrose, and so he started Ambrose Realty back in 1984. So growing up, I was, grew up around real estate and everything on that end, and right out of high school, I started my own courier business, CC Courier, because my full name, which is Cavin Craig Quintanilla, so it's CCQ, right? But my
Hmm.
initial, so it was. But anyway, I started that, and then yeah, went to college, and I was triple major with music, business,
Wow.
and physical education, because again,
Nice.
so quite a range there, but I knew I wanted to do that, a lot of that, so helped out. Yeah, this is the amherstrealty.org. So it's a nonprofit. So it's full circle. My dad passed away about 3 years ago. When
Sorry
he
that.
passed away, we started a nonprofit for affordable housing
Hmm. Well, that's
in
awesome.
his honor. So his name will live on, past me
Awesome.
and my kids and so on. So we can do that. So essentially, getting back to full circle with the poker industry, the gaming industry is. I started off with a nonprofit, doing charity events, and that's how I got into it. So now, still being in the industry and starting this, so I foresee what we'll be doing. Some major projects coming up there is we'll do some charity poker events as well. We'll attach, because I've done a lot of charity events for Breast Cancer Angels, for Autism Speaks, just a lot of other charity poker events.
Yeah, I'm
And
familiar with that group, so that's
yeah,
awesome. Definitely would love to
so
see
yeah,
some
there's
more
a
of
lot of
those.
that going on. So that's where that is on that. And that's with that. So when we started running the tournaments and all of that, I just there's a lot of things I like about real estate, and you can make a lot of money, and there's ups and downs and all of that in real estate. But one of the things that I always did was, I'd go up, I could play 14-hour poker cash game sessions, and or longer, and it didn't phase me whatsoever. So like, it was just like I said earlier, it's either in your DNA or it's not, right? And
Yeah.
so
Right.
I started talking to people at the Gardens, and I said, well, I kind of, I was kind of shifting gears a little bit, and I said, I'd like to work, maybe these tournaments. I'd like to get a little more involved in that. And they said, well, you can't just automatically work tournaments. You got to have experience, and you got to do it entry level. We got to get you in. So I actually, and much like Matt Savage too, so I started intro. I said, well, what's the entry level position? They're like chip runner. Okay, all right, let's
Oh
do
my
it.
gosh, another chip runner went right to T. Wow, that's
So
All right,
awesome.
so
so
yeah,
be
so I
nice to the
started
chip
out.
runners out there, guys. They're going to be
Yeah,
future
so
TDs.
Yeah.
well, and I tell everybody, when I'm having meetings and things, like whatever you want to do, whatever you want to be, you can go for it, right? And so
Yeah.
I already knew going to the Gardens that I wanted to be a tournament director, and so yeah, I was hired on as a chip runner, and 2 weeks later they said, okay, you're going to start training the chip runners. So it was pretty quick. And then basically I would bring like 3 or 4 different shirts, because I was then they put me on the board, the call board, when you come in and
Yep.
sign up. And then we'd have raffles back in the day, so I'd make then I would get it. They say, you know what, you're good on the mic, get on the mic. So then I would do the announcements, $10,000 giveaways. And then they said, well, let's get him on the floor too. So like it was really quick, fast paced.
Nice.
Um, I would go to the casino, and I'd have multiple shirts in my car. It was like, was I going to be a chip runner today? Was I going to be training the chip runners today? Was I going to be on the call board? Was I going to be on the floor? Like, what exactly was I going to be doing? And then so that just progressed. And then we used to have a graveyard tournament back in the day, and all of the Gardens. Whoops, sorry, all of the Gardens players out there will know this, but we used to have a 4:30 a.m. tournament
Holy
twice a week.
cow.
We had a graveyard tournament.
Wow.
4:30
Um,
a.m.
we
Wow.
Yeah, we'd have it Thursday night, which was really Friday morning, and we'd have it Saturday night, which is really Sunday morning, right? 4:30 in the morning. Um, and so I said, yeah, I'll definitely do that, no problem. So I started doing some graveyard tournaments, and then of course, if you guys don't know, the Gardens is the sit and go capital of the world, which is I think the only really brick and mortar place that's really running like sit and goes consistently. And so they had that sit and go host position, so they had people to fill for that. So now, not only, I mean, was I maybe being a chip runner, training them, call board, floor, I could be a sit and go host, a graveyard tournament, a regular. I mean, I was just doing everything and all of that. And
I'm glad to hear that.
yeah.
It's like sounds like a meritocracy over there, right? So they seem to like reward you, right, for being really good at what you did. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and then of course, then they're like, well, let's train you for supervisor, right? Let's get this and that, and there's a lot of opportunities that come your way, but it was one of those things where I knew exactly what I wanted to do, which was be a tournament director. And so that was back in 2007. So 2007
Okay.
was when all of that was going on. And then there's quite a bit more story. I don't know if everybody wants to hear all of it, but essentially in 2011, that was when the Gardens and we got together to run our first like series,
Okay.
full series type of thing. And we had a couple other TDs at the time that were there that were a little bit had been in the business a little bit longer and so on. So they had a meeting with all three of us, and they said, okay, this is what we want to do. Can you guys put this together? All of this, right? And they said, okay. So they basically gave it to all three of us to like get together and do it. And the other two guys looked at me and said, you can do it. And I was like, that.
Yeah,
all I needed
that's
to
it.
hear.
You're like, finally, it's been 5 years or something, right?
So because I'm just it's just a big, to me, it's all about the team. So it's always about the team. And, so it's like, whatever we do, whatever we put together, it's always about, going over it, having more sets of eyes on it. And, just how can we make things better? How can we maximize this? Listening to the player. I mean, there's just so much. And I know that's one of the other topics about, TDs and so on. But yeah, so that was it. And then like from there, like I just reached out to the LA poker community and all the other card rooms as well. Sam Quinto was over at Commerce, which was one of Matt's guys over there. Which he was just a great guy. You had Craig over at Hustler, he had Mo at the bike, and Mo, you guys know Mo still. And I just reached out to all of them and I said, hey, let's how we just want to kind of maneuver this landscape a little bit. Just kind of getting a feel and just like nice olive branch and all of that. And so I had a really good relationship with just the other TDs in the area. And even in 2016, some of you might remember, we did a Southern California Poker Championship where all four properties actually got together.
Yeah.
You could qualify at Hustler, you could qualify at the bike, you could qualify at Commerce, and you can qualify at the Gardens. And then the top players from all four properties played in a championship, and that was live streamed and everything like that. The winner did come from the Gardens Casino. Just want to let everybody know that. So unfortunately, we did never run the second year of that and so on. But we, it was a pretty cool thing for all four of those, the LA.
Yeah, I wasn't here at the time, but I've heard about it from a couple people and heard some stuff, and it's really awesome that you were kind of a driving force to get some cooperation between the properties. With all the series that are always going on throughout the year, it'd be really cool if you guys could, collaborate on some kind of cross casino, cross LA point system or something. That could be like really awesome. Something, or even just doing the championship again. That would be really cool to see such a collaboration. But yeah,
it was funny because when I used to play a lot, or I would actually play around town a lot too, and everybody had their own player card. So I actually made my own player card. So Commerce was the only one they were one of the few that had the strip on it, the actual, and then the other ones had the barcodes. So what I did is I took the barcodes from all of the other ones and I put it on the card.
Oh, that's clever.
And then I even put my because GPI was coming out, the Global Poker Index. So I put my GPI number on it. I actually still have the card.
Oh, wow.
So anywhere I actually only had one card. I only needed one card.
Cool.
To go around. It doesn't necessarily work these days because the systems are a little different and all of that. But it was pretty cool, little concept as a player to do that. But so that was kind of the birth of
Cavin, the tournament director at the Gardens. You've been kind of the official main TD series runner since 11 or 13, 2013?
2011. Yeah.
Yep. So you've got a lot of experience in your belt. You've been a really cornerstone of the LA scene for a very long time. So that's really awesome. That explains a lot to me. I just got here, really jumped into the scene maybe 3 years ago. I just got here maybe 6, 7. So that explains a ton to me. It makes sense now. I want to give you a chance to jump over to something else. We won't spend a lot of time on it because it's not super LA centric, but I noticed you have this ClubWPT stream championship thing that you have going on all the time, and I've seen it in your Twitter. I've seen I've seen your advertising some of these streams and what's going on. So I really have no idea what the heck this thing is. Yeah. So could you fill us in?
Yeah, so when you had Matt on a few shows ago, and he actually touched on it a little bit, and so it's basically during COVID, right? The pandemic, the shutdown of all the card rooms and everything. So ClubWPT, obviously part of the whole World Poker Tour family, they started saying we're going to live stream ClubWPT, but they're going to have their talent on there, right? And so they would have Lynn Gilmartin, Vince Van Patten, Tony Dunst, and Matt Savage as bounties. So if you go on and play ClubWPT, which, subscription based, you can get on for free, or you can play a higher level. They have a diamond membership, and it's like the highest one is like essentially it's $150, and you have all of these. You can win real money and real prizes, right? You can win packages to the World Championship and so on. So it's just there's just so many great prizes. But they were doing bounties. So if you go on and you knock them out, you can get extra tournament chips and you win all this stuff. And it was really cool to so what happened is they were starting this up at the pandemic because they couldn't play live, right? And we've had obviously a World Poker Tour over at the Gardens since 2017. Also other hats I wear, with the which we'll get into, I'm sure. With a Game LLC, Protection Poker, the Action Clock, and so on. So I've had some partnerships with the World Poker Tour. So I've got to know Lynn and Matt and Tony and Vince over the years. So when they were starting to stream these and having these bounty events on ClubWPT, and I had never played on ClubWPT. Of course, we all knew about it, but I hadn't played on it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go support these guys. What else are we doing, right? We're not. But I'm like, okay, this will be cool. We can support them. And then next thing you know, on Twitch, they got the live streams, they got the chats, and then of course ClubWPT, you can win all these things. And so I just started. That first time you get into a chat, you don't really want to get into a chat, and then you kind of drawn into it. You say, okay, the water's warm, it's kind of safe, and then I do want to support these guys, so I just started doing that. And then next thing you know, it's just this community starts growing, and it was just a lot of fun. And then it was like a few months into it or so, Vince was going to go on a road trip, like an RV road trip with his family, Vince Van Patten. And so they were like, we want somebody to replace him to stand in for his live stream bounty event. And they reached out to me and they said, Cavin, would you be interested in being a guest bounty on one of these streams? And of course I said, yeah, that'd be great. And then I thought, well, I've never live streamed before, and I don't have the software to compute. I haven't done anything. So I did it all on my MacBook Air. I just downloaded a YouTube videos. I'm like, so I got on there, I put on this whole thing, and it just went over really well. The community, I just connected really well with the community, and they showed a lot of love, a lot of support. And then, so eventually what I did is I started hosting, during the pandemic, I started hosting a weekly live stream of ClubWPT playing on there. But now what we have is we have a monthly, there's a monthly leaderboard for the stream team on ClubWPT, and we take the top players and they get to play in a stream team championship every month. So every month they get to compete against each other, kind of a small little invitational. If you finish in the top 27 on the leaderboard, you get invited to play in the Stream Team Championship, where you can win, swag, bragging rights. It's really more bragging rights than anything, but it's cool because it's the best of this stream team community on Club WPT, and the community is just so positive. And I mean, we can go talk for hours on that, but which we won't right now, of course. But so yeah, the second Monday of each month, I host the Club WPT Stream Team Championship, and you just have one of the greatest poker communities out there. And the cool thing is not last December, but the December before that, the first Win World Championship at the WT World Championship at the Win. That was the first time that the stream team was able to come together, and they had like a stream team barbecue because they all met online during the pandemic, right? So nobody got to really meet in person. And the World Poker Tour and Club WT really rolled out the red carpet, as they do for their qualifiers and things like that. And so yeah, it's
Cool.
it's a great community.
Yeah.
And
So
and like I said, bang for your buck, Club WPT is one of the best bangs for your buck. I mean, it's 150 for a month, and you
Right.
have all of this. I don't want to say unlimited access at winning, but I mean, they have usually 3 guaranteed tournaments a
Sure.
week, and like 2
So-
to 3 satellites every week.
So just to
Nice.
just for my clarity, you jumped in for Vince Van Patten, did the bounty event. Does Club WPT sponsor your stream team? Does that championship and the prizes, are those extra coming from Club WPT? Where are those coming from?
So yeah, it's a partnership we've had there, to where they basically help cooperate setting it up for us and all of that. But essentially, the Club WPT does provide some things for the stream team leaderboard,
Okay.
the monthly leaderboard.
So they are
do
providing they're putting stuff in to for the prize pool, so to speak.
Yeah, they do like swag and things
Okay.
like that, and the tournament points for that. But for the actual championship, they are contributing the setup, the tournament itself, the tournament points. But me on my end, we provide myself and we provide like extra goodies and swags. I get T-shirts made up.
Is that
stream team champion and all of that.
And that's all on you?
Not coming from Club WPT.
Oh, okay. And then how does someone join the stream team? How do they get in on the leaderboard? They just find your club or whatever. They just find your.
So the cool thing is really anybody can join. It's not like a membership fee or anything like that. Anybody that plays on Club WPT and just participates, like shows up to the streams, they're automatically in. It's participation, really, right? And then they do have a Discord as well. So if you go to clubwpt.com, there's going to be a link on Club WPT for the stream team.
Oh, great.
And they'll have a Discord link there as well. So a lot of it is run through Twitch and Discord. So you'll get familiar with those platforms, much like like we're on here today with obviously we're on YouTube here for everybody, but some of the back end things when you're streaming and putting on these things, you're using all this other software and programs, which not everybody knows. That's why, like, a lot of times, Ty, you hit the button too prematurely, right, for the roundup.
Yep.
So we have a saying on the stream team: it's a lot of buttons.
Yep.
So if anybody has ever streamed, like if you have a stream deck or anything else going on, there are just a lot of hotkeys and a lot of buttons to it, and it's just one of those things we joke around. So a lot of buttons. But yeah, so just if you play on Club WPT and you join the streams on Twitch, that's all that is really required to be part of the stream team. But there are some extras, like I said, getting on the Discord and some other things like that. But no, there's guys like RR Runner and John Miner, and of course John Meta John, and a lot of them that they do a lot of work where they actually track the points and they make these leaderboards.
Oh, okay, great.
Up. So they're going through all the results from the major events and making the leaderboards.
Wow.
And then they present that, and then they have their top 18 or top 27 now that we do. And so I come in and they do all the heavy lifting, and I'm like, okay, here's the top 27. They're invited to this tournament, and then
Gotcha.
I
gotcha. Hey,
so they do the heavy lifting,
Yeah, that's an awesome community. I think what I was saying about trying to get all the cooperation between the casinos, Derek, you and I, one of these days, maybe when we finally get all the results all the time from everyone, maybe we should keep those points and we can do a little LA. Maybe we can consolidate the LA thing, find somebody to host an end of year tournament for us, just the same way, except the live version, huh? Well, put that in our hat somewhere.
Real quick, I see there's Jeremy Clemens in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Thank you for all you do for the stream." So he's one of the over there at Club WPT. He's one of the basically in charge of
Oh, okay.
for
Awesome.
he is one of the he spearheads Club WPT,
Great.
essentially him and Michael, and of course the whole. I mean, the thing with the World Poker Tour, and if you ever if you're ever around them for any length of time, people say it a lot, but they really do deliver in that family atmosphere. So
Nice.
from Adam
Sounds great.
Pliska
Yep.
all the way down, it is really a more of a poker family. And so, I think it's kind of natural that the WPT Club WPT stream team community has kind of become that family extension too. They really look out.
Yeah,
for
no,
each
that's
other.
awesome.
Great,
Welcome.
great culture.
Yeah, welcome to the chat. Thanks
Also,
for
we
joining
have,
us. We have a,
Sincerely yours in chat who wants us to give a shout out to Dr. Poker. So shout out to Dr. Poker.
Yep. Yeah, we have a
Nice.
number of chat stuff. We'll quick run through. So one person wanted to have a quick question about how many people were you getting for those graveyard tournaments?
So the cool thing, we had some good numbers. We would get about 70 to 80 players for the Friday morning one.
Wow,
but
70 to
we
80.
would
Okay.
get like 110 to 120 for the Sunday. This is serious.
Wow, at
I mean,
4:30 a.m.
at 4:30 in the morning. And now, see, that
That's
was one of the
amazing.
things we can kind of segue into this because you guys were talking about like the LA poker ecosystem,
Mhm.
and Derek, you put that good charts together about the numbers being down and this, and for what you were putting together, it's true, but not the recreational numbers, right? Not the 130 to 250 buy-in players.
Mm.
I mean, we used to get like 60 to 80 players on our events pre-COVID, and when they would spike up, we'd get 120 or so, right? I mean, and I'm talking about just the dailies. I'm not talking
Yep.
about the Friday night event, which we'll talk about later.
Mhm.
The Friday night event. We're going to talk about the Friday night event, everybody, so stay tuned. But we're right now just talking about the dailies, like, we would get like 60 to 80 players, and then like I said, it would spike up to maybe 110, 120 on like a Sunday bounty or something. And that's why, like, when you ask about the graveyard would put up those big numbers like back in the day. And we did stop doing it. I don't want to go down that road of why and all of that, but we used to do those graveyard tournaments. But those were our dailies. That's how much we used to get. And I can tell you, pre-COVID, we would get about double to triple the numbers of the other properties that we're getting.
Wow.
And we used to run at 12 o'clock, and then we would have sit and goes in the middle. Then we'd run a 6 o'clock, and then we would have a shootout at 9 o'clock. So that was a typical day at the Gardens pre-COVID.
Wow.
So we're talking about a full tournament with about 60 to 80 players, about 8 to 12 sit and goes in the middle there, and then another 60 to 80 players at 6 o'clock, and then a 3-table shootout at 9 o'clock, which consisted of 27 to 30 players.
And that was every
Wow.
single weekday, more or less, you say, huh?
And that was pretty much, yeah, that was 5 days a week. And then I think Sundays we didn't run the shootouts or whatever, you know what I mean? So, but we would have 2 tournaments pretty much every day, and sit and goes every day, and the shootouts 5 days a week. So we, I mean, when sit and goes, each sit and go is a tournament. So when you look at that as a tournament, I mean, we're just running, that was quite a bit. Now, in contrast, we are only running 1 tournament a day, and we are still running sit and goes. But our Wednesday 11 a.m. tournament, as you guys are probably well aware of, we average over 250 players.
Yeah, they're huge.
on
They're
the
huge.
field.
So that actually it does segue into the next question. One of the other topics I really want to talk to you about is you guys, when I started playing kind of the dailies around to fill in between, it seemed like Commerce had like the best guarantees and a really decent like player pool. They would get, they were the ones getting those 220 players, 250 player dailies. And then all of a sudden, they just started drying up, and all of a sudden I heard about the Gardens more and more, and it just seemed like you guys, I mean, it sounds like you already were like the place to be or a really happening place, but all of a sudden it just sounded like, I mean, to be honest, it sounds like you're eating their lunch. And right now I confidently tell everyone the Gardens absolutely has the best dailies in LA. As you said, they're the best prize pools. They're the biggest. You guys have the best rake, the best rake percentages. You guys have good structures. You use the action clock. We'll talk about that later. You go to 8-handed. Like, you guys just do all the best things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aside from the stuff I said, what is the secret sauce? Like, what is it you think that's helped make your dailies so sustainable and successful?
So yeah, I mean, a couple things. you know, I don't know, as far as other properties go, this and that. We were the last one for essentially to come back. We were dark on tournaments. So while we were, obviously from COVID, right, we didn't come back for tournaments.
Mm.
And so while we were not back from tournaments, other properties,
That explains a lot. Yeah, because that is about the timeline.
had fields that were essentially players that would normally probably play at the Gardens Casino pre-COVID. And so when we came back, and we came back with just 3 days, and yeah, so the fields were, that they just, like I said, we're getting like 250 to 300 on Wednesday, and then another 200 on Thursday, and so on. So, but to answer your question specifically on that, I just want to touch on that first because that kind of explained what you probably saw.
Yeah, like I said, I
You-
just started playing tournaments really 3 months before COVID happened. So my personal experiences with LA poker starts right then, basically the second COVID happened, and then coming back.
Yeah. So, it's not a secret sauce. I mean, it's really, I think it's a special sauce, right? And I think what that is, and I've had this conversation with other people, and I've even like at outside of LA, and the number one thing is to care. If you don't care, forget it. They're gonna know you don't care. I think I've had this conversation with one of you guys too, but if you have to care. Now you need the knowledge and the experience and all of those. You need all of that, right? The knowledge, experience, and just having an open ear and having a great filter, right? Because everybody's going to tell you what you should do and how you should do it and what level you should add and how you should do the payouts here and how often you should run an event. So I listen to everybody. I listen to everybody. I just happen to have, I think, a more polished filter, if you will. So it's, but and I care. So as a player first, I'm always thinking of that. But I do look at. There's three things I look at, and it's really simple. It's one, do the players want it? If the players don't want it, why are we even doing it, right? So number one, do the players want it? Okay, yes, let's give the players what they want. Number two, is the casino going to make money, right? Because the casino is there to make money. So if the casino is going to make money and the players want it, okay, now we've got something we can move forward with. And the third one, which is just a bonus, is then the staff, right? And getting the staff behind it. Because if the staff is going to get behind it with that, those two things work, and then the staff can get rewarded for putting on a great product, then all three things good. Everybody has the same goal, which is, you know what I mean? And putting on the best events with the biggest prize pool possible, right? Because the players want the biggest prize pools, you know what I mean? And that it just is going to filter through the whole thing. And remember, we're lucky enough that the CEO of the Gardens is a poker player, and the general manager
Oh, wow.
really understands the whole essence of poker is a promotional tool and what that brings. So when you have a GM and a CEO of your property that knows, and sees that vision, they understand the rewards that those things can bring. So yeah, I mean, it's really with that knowledge and experience and putting those two things together and then following through, because if you've seen those videos, I always talk about there's customer service, right? There's bad service, there's customer service, there's good customer service, and I believe in legendary customer service. So I take the bar all the way, and that's what I want. And again, going back to the team, if a team member doesn't care, I'll know about it. The players will know about it. So if you don't care, you shouldn't get into the game. Is essentially. So that would be the advice I would have for anybody that's looking to become a tournament director or a floor. If it's not already in your DNA and you don't care about it, then it's generally not. You shouldn't get into it. You're getting into it for the wrong reasons, I would say.
Yeah, that's some great advice, and I think that echoes some of what we heard Matt say when he was on the show here. I just want to one thing that you mentioned that really kind of lit a light bulb for me is when you talked about the leadership and the ownership of the Gardens. You mentioned that the CEO is a poker player, so there really is kind of a buck stops here, one leader of the Gardens Casino. Is that what I'm hearing? So
I think the GM
Yeah.
CEO, they really
So
the one of the main things too is they always just you got to know who you are, right? And
yep.
it's a poker room, right?
Yeah.
It's not a full casino resort type of thing,
Yep.
right? It's these are card rooms in LA, right?
Yep.
There's no slots, there's no roulette, there's no craps, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's games of skill, it's poker, it's card rooms. They have the blackjack and backrats, which are all card games and games of skill with the dealer button and all of that. Um, and we're talking mostly about poker, right? And
Right. Right.
generally, we're talking about Texas Hold'em, and of course, we like running a lot of Omaha and Stud and those things. But you know, uh, no limit Texas Hold'em is still king, right?
Yep.
And all of that. But
My
so
my
yeah, I mean,
point though was that the all the great things that people kind of say about the Gardens and the that care you talk about really comes through. But to contrast that with the structure at the top for some of the other local places, right? I mean, we know Park West was just bought by by Park West Corporation. We know that is not really that is definitely not an owner who is a poker player, right? That's definitely a baccarat minded, table games minded kind of fella. Organization straight from the top. And then on the other hand, we have Commerce, who I know they don't really have a leader. They have a board, a very large board from what I know, with a lot of different voices and a lot of different opinions. So I think that what you say, having just kind of a centralized leadership who really care about poker, that explains a lot to me personally.
And actually, if we then just go back to what you're saying about the growth, right? So it seemed like Gardens was growing while the other places were declining.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you actually need to start from the top of a mindset that is like very poker centric. And so that totally makes sense now. Everything that we see at the Gardens totally makes sense.
Yeah, and unfortunate for us, we're people will always come and tell me, hey, you guys got to run this kind of event, or this, you got to run a bigger event, you got to run a series. Well, we've done all that in the past, right? So we are a little still handcuffed with our staffing, right? And I know you guys have heard me say that, and I've told that to so many players. It seems like the world today is so many people don't want to work in general, right? And so we have those recs open. People that do care want to apply. You go to gardenscasino.com, go to the bottom, it has employment opportunity. We need everything, right? I mean, everybody needs, food servers to porters to dealers to floor. I mean, to everything. I believe all the recs are open, but so it's it's a process to get back to where we were, or where we're going, I should say, more like, because it's not about where we were, it's about where we can go from here. But we're getting there. Like I said, we started back with just 3 days, and then we added a 4th day, and then we added sit and goes, and then we added a 5th day. And even on our series, we're not able to fully go onto a full blown series for
So
weeks upon weeks.
to do a little advertising, would you say that with these recs, then there's a lot of room for growth for anybody out there in the gaming industry, especially in the area, right? If they want to take a look at those recs, there's a lot of room to grow for a lot of anybody who really cares, like you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and I think one of the other things, I actually in the chat, I think Caitlin put it perfect. She says it shows at Gardens too the environment, right? So one of the things that you guys probably, I know you've talked about it, and I know it was in the chat, I think the other week when you guys were talking as well, is that since we do care, we patrol the floor, right? We do run a tighter room, and we are looking well. The whole goal of that really is to make a more comfortable and an inviting environment for new players, for ladies, elderly, new players, however you want to spin it. We want people when they come there to feel comfortable and not have to worry about feeling, whether it's being protected or hounded, or this vulgar language, just anything like that. And it's on our structure sheets, and it's stated before all of our events. There's no profanity, abusive, or disruptive behavior. It will not be tolerated. So I think that's one of those extra things that we, a lot of people will say, and but I think, like I said, again, you got to follow through with it, right? And so we do our best to do that. Obviously, nobody's perfect, right? We all make mistakes, but it's just we're trying to make sure that environment is inviting to all players, even veteran players. I mean, we want you to come in and have that great experience. And that goes back to how I got started in this, which is I have that grandma gene in me or that mother gene in me where it's like, how do you want something to eat? You want some, I want to take care of you.
Yeah,
I want you to feel
you do.
comfortable
Gravy.
when you come in. Yeah, I want to make that homemade gravy
Okay, now
or
talking about
that
the
homemade
eating though,
ice cream.
Kevin. The eating, the number, what the number one complaint since COVID has been about the eating there from the players. Is there anything you can do or say about that? Is there ever any chance that that's ever coming back? Can we
Can
ever
we eat at
eat at the
tables again?
tables again?
So the biggest negative for the Gardens Casino is that you're not allowed to eat at the table. Are we correct on this
Now,
one?
look, I don't
Yep.
really mind, but this is one of the number one complaints we hear. This is definitely one of the
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
one complaints.
Yeah, people dragging tables over.
Yeah, which is better. That is better than having to go all the way aside. But yeah,
So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't make the policies or decisions based on eating at the tables or anything along those specific lines. I can control what I can control, right, with the tournament aspect of it. The casino policy, yeah, there is no, those side tables and eating at the tables. And I know before it was pretty cool because people would have, lamb chops, hummus. I mean, just the whole spread, right? Banana splits, even. I mean, you would have been perfect, Ty, because I used to actually put banana split bounties on people on Wednesdays.
really.
If there was a guy
Oh,
named
I'd have
Vinny
been there every
Hang,
day.
and he would come and he would play. He would love the bounties, and he would always play. And I would actually go around with the mic, as you know I do, and I try to, I make it fun, and I kind of MC an event, also as keeping the integrity of the event and the rules. But I also like to bring that fun spirit to it. And I just said, hey, if you knock out Vinny today, you get a banana split. So like that's just I would buy the banana split,
Oh,
right?
that's awesome.
This is me saying you knock out Vinny, known the guy for years, and and I don't recommend just doing that to anybody. You gotta build relationships with people over years to do certain things, right? But yeah, we used to have banana split Wednesdays. You knock them out, you would get it. So on that, but getting back to the eating at the table, yeah, that's you have to have more food servers to do that. And then you also have to have more porters to clean up after
Oh, wow.
that. And when you look at at the Gardens Casino, you're talking about 60 to 80 games, cash games going. And when we run a tournament, 250, 300, 445 people showed up the other day at the tournament, right? Now, imagine, we had, like, let's say we had 80 or 90 cash games going, plus we have a 445 player field there. And we don't have enough servers for that to begin with, let alone if we did, who's going to clean up after that, right? Because the servers have to serve. So we don't have the porters for that. So that's just one entity there. I can tell you that, I don't know if it's the majority, but the silent majority, let's say, or the silent mass, love the fact that you can't eat at the table because it slows the game up.
Yeah.
People are turning around. It's your turn. Oh, you make a mistake. Now, there's, whatever, there's
Caitlin in the
somewhere.
chat is saying that exact thing. Yep.
So there are a lot of people that, they don't have the smell of the food, the whatever, just all of that, the cleanliness, the hygiene. So it's really not about specifically like COVID rules or this or that. And so people, so yeah, I hear it just like you hear it, Ty. That's probably the number one thing I hear from the players talking about. But yeah, I mean, it is a different gaming experience there, and you're gonna get. So if like and here's the thing is you're not you when you're hungry, right? The Snickers commercials are like spot on. Like, believe me, when you're hungry, you want to eat now, and now you turn into hangry, right? Angry, hungry. So I get it. And we do our best. Our staff, our team, we do our best to try to accommodate you best we can. That's why our structures, like people say, that's kind of weird that you have a 15-minute break and then another 20-minute break, like an hour apart. And that was specifically, the structure is there for eating because the registration, the tournament starts at 11. You can always eat before the tournament, but then there's 2 hours and then there's a break for eating. Okay.
You got to call it the lunch break.
Right. But then when people come in, there's those 2 more levels that you can get in before we close reg. And we'll do a race off and then give you that extra extended break.
Mm-hmm.
And those are for the people that didn't have that first break that came in. Now they have a break they can eat. So those are the 2, and I announce it in the casino. Those are the 2 extended breaks. and you just need to plan accordingly, right? I mean, you can order
Sure.
food from, there's a lot of grab and go items. Our dim sum is one of the best around. And of course, you can always order from the restaurant, the bar,
Sure,
which is
sure.
there. But you just
Yep.
plan accordingly. You got to order. There are some food servers. We are getting more food servers, and then of course, we've got the window open, which
Yeah.
is like a grab and go thing.
Yeah.
On
And
that,
I think from like a trade-off perspective with all the things that you guys are doing, right? Like the trade-off of not having food at the tables, but then, taking some of your budget that would have been for servers and for, like porters, right? To do, to put it into other places, I think it's perfectly fine trade-off, right? And as you're to the point that you're making, some people actually like that. So it's totally
Yep.
fine.
No, and like
Yeah.
I said before, I prefer the no eating at the table rule. It's just, we hear it, everybody complains about it. So gotta
Yeah.
bring it up, gotta bring it up. But I'm with you. I prefer a clean game. I prefer being moving along nice and fast.
Yeah. But then like talking about like growth, right? So like growth in poker in general, and the thing about the growth in poker is that you kind of do need bigger guarantees, and at the same time, because of costs going up, you kind of have to raise your rake and raise, to kind of keep up with your costs. But then the gardens seem to have lower, like the best rake around. Like how are you guys able to sustain that and
Yeah,
also
this
be able to do what
500 you
you're doing?
ran this last weekend, only
Yeah,
$60 coming off that. That was amazing.
yeah,
That's
that's
incredible.
crazy. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So can you say that again, Derek, about the lowest rake? And could you just say that part again?
You got the lowest rake of all the LA casinos. What's going on?
So I think players would like that, right? That's one of the things, management, we look at that, right? So we look at the rake as well, and we look at the cost of things. Real quick in the chat, something popped out to me. Brad says hashtag roast beef sandwich Phil Hellmuth. So anybody that has ever seen the video of Phil Hellmuth
Yeah,
trying to
that
get a
was
roast beef
funny.
sandwich down at the
Yeah,
WSOP.
that was
Um,
savage. Yeah.
anyway,
Yep,
that's
yep.
classic. But yeah, we do look at that, and sometimes our rake is par, or maybe it's slightly over on the lower buy-ins, because lower buy-ins, the
Yeah,
percentage is going to
of
be
course.
there, right?
No,
It's
Yep.
I'm pretty
so
confident that you guys are the same or way better on almost every price point
I think so
for
too.
rake.
Yep.
yeah, and so it's we run the numbers, and we try to put it on. We're not we're making sure that, again, that the staff is taken care of, the casino's making their money, and we're putting the best product that we can put on, given the policies and parameters that we have for the players. And so you know we talk about levels and things like
Hmm.
that, and then, like I said, we listen to that. We listen to the levels. Well, you skipped this level, or you did this level, or they want this level, or they want more chips, or this or that. So there's a little give and take, right, on
Yep.
a lot of those things. But at the end of the day, you said it, I think, Derek. I mean, we're putting on such a great product that we obviously can't have everything at this
Yep.
stage, but I think the rake helps the players tremendously, and the casino's making money, and we're putting on the best we can, and
Yeah.
of course, when it comes to live cash games, and this is one of those things where I don't think people really realize in the world how much poker is actually played in LA. Like, when you look at the two busiest, as far as number of tables, of actual live cash poker tables, the two busiest casinos in the world on any given day are in LA, and the Gardens is one of those.
Wow.
And they either have more tables than the other property, or that property has just a couple more tables than them, right? Give or take. So, like,
That's
if
true.
you have
Yeah.
105 or 100, we're not talking about the number of tables available. We're talking about the number of tables actually being played
Right,
poker
right.
on, right?
Yeah.
So, when you go in there on on a Friday night, and you've got 98, or back in the day we'd have 120, 130 cash game tables,
Wow.
right? Pre-COVID. And then I mean, it's just, and then we'd have another 400 or so on our Friday night tournament, right? I mean, it's just the amount of poker being played every single day, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on any day without a series, just any day, even when we don't have a series, I mean, we're still getting, the 50 to 60 tables, or whatever the case may be, on cash game poker tables, right? We're not talking about the table games, the carnival games. We're just talking about limit hold'em, no limit hold'em, and Omaha and stud type of mixed games. So there is a tremendous amount of action being played on those cash games, and our super bad beat jackpots do go up to 100,000. Ty, by the way, so
awesome.
it is up to 100,000 on the bad beat jackpot. But it has to be at certain hours and certain times and all that stuff. But it does go up to 100,000.
All right. So why don't we take a quick break from grilling Cavin on his life and his thoughts, and we have a little fun thing we wanted to do. As everybody knows, the Gardens and Cavin kind of have a little reputations for being the #1 rules stickler, the most knowledgeable about TDA rules and everything. So we kind of have. I've got a copy of the last published TDA rules here. I wanted to pop up a couple questions, just a couple random spots that I've kind of rolled the dice and found on here, and I want to see if Cavin knows his stuff. All right. So,
what?
Are you up for this? I'm gonna ask you a couple quizzes, just a couple questions here, there. Nothing too crazy, and see if you know from these TDA rules. And then I hear you may have a few quiz questions for us that you wanted to come back at us with too.
Yeah, I like to keep things fun. Also, that's one of the things I always preach to them, to the team and stuff, is I only have 2 rules. One is follow procedure. The second rule is have fun. So if we all follow procedure and the rules, we can all have fun. But all right, go ahead, shoot away. I thought you were going to ask more about scenarios or questions on that, but go ahead.
No. I'm a gamer too. I'm a board gamer. I'm a card gamer. I like rules. So I know you love the rules. I wanted to test you on a few. And some of these they have a little bit to do with some scenarios that were coming up. So this one.
Yeah, I think you played Magic, right?
Yep, I played a lot of Magic.
I like Hearthstone.
Hearthstone,
so
I didn't
like.
I hated Hearthstone, but
yeah,
we can argue about that on another podcast, Kevin.
Well, there's no argument there because I just never got into Magic, but I can tell I would probably love it, and I just liked Hearthstone because it was so easy to play, and it's obviously it's a video game, it's addicting, it's easy to play, right? At your fingertips.
It's easy to stream. All right, so
no argument needed on that one.
So here we go. Here's the question. All right, so here's question number 1, and this was relevant to a situation that came up at my table this weekend.
Okay.
What is, according to TDA, what counts as substantial action? And
so
if you need me to multiple choice it, I can. But I think you.
I mean, it's substantial action. So yeah, I'm familiar with this rule, obviously, and I'm pretty sure I know what decision was made and what happened with the floor. I wasn't involved in it, but obviously I do try to review with all of the tournament floor and things like that of anything that has happened. I periodically will go, hey, what's going on? Give me an update of what's going on in the floor. One of those little things they just don't teach you right in the training manual. You again follow through. If we given any warnings out, penalties. So your question for substantial action. So essentially, if there's 3 checks in a row, then that would be substantial action. If there's 2 actions in a row where one of them is putting chips in the pot, then that's substantial action. However, a floor also wants to gather as much information as possible, because if the 3 checks happen like simultaneously, like check, well, like, did the player have enough time to actually stop the action? So, rule 1 always comes into play, right? Common sense, trying to get as much information as possible. So what I always talk to the floor about is, listen to what they're telling you and all of that. So the substantial action is that basically is the 3 checks in a row, or folds or whatever, right? The 3 actions in a row, or 2 where one of them is putting chips into the pot. But again, you do have to dig a little bit deeper to make sure the action wasn't like simultaneously or something like that, which is a lot of when people act out of turn.
Yep. So that's
impressive.
Yep, you nailed it. You nailed it exactly right. So, and even put on a little the correct way to handle it as a floor in there. I love it. All right. And so the scenario, the thing that happened at our table was really weird. And actually, so now knowing the rule, I guess the floor was a little off. I made sure the floor came over and I explained to them the real question here is significant action. What is it? And they, 2 of the other floor guys kibitzed, and they actually made the wrong ruling, but it wasn't a big deal. Not a big deal. What happened? It was strange. I was under the gun. I folded. The next guy raised, and then the next guy goes down to look at his hand, and he says, "Wait, I've only got 1 card." dealer, where's my other card? So this guy somehow ended up with only one card, and so now we stopped and we're like, well, is his hand dead, or do we misdeal? What do we do? So we're trying to figure out if it was significant action or not. So I think what happened were the floor guys, when they kibitz, because I said, is that significant? I don't know what's significant. I think they got the 3 action thing confused. They must have just remembered 3 actions because they said, oh, only 2 actions, it's not significant, and we just got a misdeal, and then we went on break. So it wasn't a big deal. But if it was a test, they'd get a mark off. Cavin give them a minus.
Yeah, and more on that, because I did find out about that. Of course, like I said, I talked to to see what's going on. But players, and I actually, Ty, one of the times that you called on a different situation is you were calling the floor. A floor came over, and by the time the floor got there, which wasn't that, maybe 3 Mississippi.
Right.
By the time they got over there, the players had already decided what they were going to do, and they kind of went with it.
Yep.
So the scenario you're talking about, my understanding was when the floor was going over, they were basically, making an error, it sounds like, but also the player that had raised was like, oh, it's okay, it's a misdeal. Like they give them an out, like, oh, you can misdeal it. So like not that they should have, but that kind of then leans, a newer floor. If everybody at the table is kind of leaning one way and they all kind of think it's fair, and you kind of go with that, it's not, you don't have to be so black and white with the rule on that, because the black and white part of the rule there is it's not a misdeal. The player has a dead hand with 1 card. But the players were really, even the only person that had actually already put chips into the pot said it's okay. And like I said, this is what I told the floor.
It's a fair ruling.
So you can justify it in a sort of degree there, but it doesn't release you from the fact of, like you said, it was an error on that, and also you don't go by what the players say,
right?
Because all the players want to do this. It doesn't mean you do that,
right?
I always cut to the extreme. So let's say the blinds are 1,000, 2,000. So if all the players want to play 500, 1,000, you're going to do that,
right? Yep. So, this is why I connect with you, Kevin. You're letter of the law, if we can. That's the only fair thing. Letter of the law. So my second, all right, so let's move on to my second quiz question. Then we have a question in the, I think Derek might have something he wanted to ask about, and then we have a question in the chat here. So my second side rule thing is, I think everybody knows that if there was an error with a hand, and you suddenly remember, I think they counted it wrong, or there was a card there. You have until the next hand is shuffled up and dealt to kind of stop things and try and fix it, right? How long, or what is the rule that you have if that hand was the last one before break? How long do you have, or what is the trigger for when you can no longer dispute a hand according to the TDA?
Okay, so you're talking about accounting errors.
Anything you want to dispute about the hand, I think.
Yeah, so essentially there's 2 parts to that as well, which is, if Derek, they push you the pot and you're like, hey, I was all in for 10,000, I should have this amount, right? You need to speak up before there's substantial action on the next hand.
Yep, but in this question is, what if it's a break?
And if it's a break, then you have 1 minute to bring it up once the break goes on.
He's got it. Nailed it.
So that would be the other ones. Because what'll happen is, okay, you got pushed the pot, Derek, but now we're going on break. But you know what I mean? So we're not going to give you the 15 minutes or 20 minutes till we start the next hand of substantial action. So that's why that rule is in there, Ty.
This guy knows his stuff. This guy, Cavin, does not disappoint, guys.
So that gets back to like what makes a good TD too is like, it's not only about knowing the rules, but it's also about knowing why the rules are there, right? And I'm always looking for what angle somebody's going to try to. I'm looking for all the angles. I can't find them all, but I like to think I got 99% of them down. So we're always trying to make sure we're protecting those players.
And
too.
You got guys like me and Derek out there looking for it as well. Especially me. If I like that situation you were talking about, if I had been paying more attention down at the table instead of trying to figure out which floor was coming over, I would not have let them resolve that themselves, because I thought that was pretty egregiously taking advantage of someone who doesn't know how a poker room works, right? We have a question in the chat. Caitlin would like us to ask you about the policy of talking about hands. Said, say I shove and you say to me, oh, do you have Jack 9? You made your flush. what's the situation there? I think it's, what's the general rules on table talk?
Yeah, so this is actually a big topic I'm going to be bringing up at the TDA Summit, and I talked a little bit earlier in the year with Matt about it, who is obviously on the board there, Matt Savage on the board of the TDA, which is, it's under etiquette, right? And under etiquette in the TDA is you can't discuss the contents of live or mucked hands, and that's so in other words, you and we can't have this TV banter, and I know it's well, documented with, like, usually Daniel Negreanu's who comes to mind,
Yeah, the
and you
Jamie
got the
Gold rule.
And the Jamie Gold rule for sure. But yeah, I mean, it clearly states you cannot discuss the contents of your live or mucked hands. Before it would be like, people would be like, well, I can lie about it, I just can't tell the truth, right? No, well, you can't lie, you can't tell the truth. You should not be discussing what you have, the strength of your hand, what you may or may not have. I hit that, I already got a made hand, just those kinds of things. So then there starts to get some gray areas, but the clear thing is what it states is you can't discuss the contents of live or mucked hands, which means you can't discuss the contents of his hand, your hand, her hand, their hand, whatever, whether you folded. And one of the things that always happens is the person that folds always wants to hit the table when the flop comes out. Like, those are,
Yep.
and then they whisper to their other person, I
Yep.
folded a 7.
I hate that. It drives me
Like,
nuts.
you just can't do those things. And yeah, you can't ask the other player, did you hit that? What does that mean? Well, you're asking if they hit the board, you're asking about their hand. So that's what the rule states, and that's our interpretation of it. And so we do enforce it. Unfortunately, like, the good dealers that really try to enforce, like, cell phone use at the table and these kinds of things, players get taken back by it because the majority of the dealers don't, right? And that's just an ongoing thing around the world, right? So if more dealers actually, brought it up to their attention. And I always try to tell the staff, it's all about team. So, like, we just want you to get in there and, in the nicest, kindest way, let them know that this is what they're doing, and we're not allowed to do it. And if they give them any kind of grief or shrug them off or whatever, it's as simple as just calling the floor to inform the floor of the situation. One of the things that always happens is, players or dealers, usually players will say, this is the third time they've acted out of turn. Well, you need to call us the first time they act out of turn, so there won't be a second or a third time, right?
Yep.
Whether it's the third time or not, if we don't know about it, it's the first time we're being called on it. So definitely, and it's not, it's not like you're a tattletale or a hall monitor, I mean, it's just like, there's a nice way to say it. And I understand if you don't want to be that person or have a target on you, whatever. And if it's something that's not immediately needs to be addressed, I always recommend getting off the table to go throw something away or whatever, and doing a roundabout the room and just go telling the floor, hey, my table, this is what happened. Can you watch it? Can you make an announcement? Nobody's necessarily singled out, and nobody knows I was the one that said it. So it's kind of a nice way. Just like if you don't want to chop or pay a bubble, same thing. You just come around and you know the bubble's coming, and if you don't want to pay it, like, go tell the tournament director, hey, if we get to a bubble, no. And then it's just it's just so much better for the actual event.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit earlier about helping new players kind of feel comfortable, right, when they're coming to play. So what's your framework, or what are your thoughts on how, like, rules making helps protect players? So I think something that came up on Twitter, and I tagged you in it, right, was like angle shooting. A lot of new players really get screwed over by angle shooting. So how do you feel about rules trying to prevent that type of thing, and how do you enforce that at Gardens if you do?
Yeah, I mean, in the LA, obviously, community, there's most of any tournament player that's been playing, I'm gonna know or recognize, right? Since basically been in the tournament poker community since 2007, right?
Yeah.
Now occasionally there are some new ones. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to rule different on somebody that that feels like it's either newer, we've never seen before, we're not sure. They're saying they, if they act out of turn, I didn't see that kind of thing, versus another player that has been playing for years and is notorious for acting out of turn, right? Like, we know Derek, you were always acting out of turn, right? So like, so I give Ty acts out of turn. I give Ty a warning. Hey, Ty, you got to be more careful.
That's right.
And if you do that, again, we're gonna get, we can give you a 1-round penalty or something along those lines. But then, an hour later, you do it, Derek, and I give you a 1-round penalty instantly, right? Like, no, you can't do that. And then, you're flipping out. Wait, but you gave him a warning. How come you don't give me a warning? This kind of thing. It's so there is a difference, and we are going to hold it accountable. Your history does matter.
I love it.
That's good. Yeah. Judgment.
And we know that. So yeah, I mean, and like the actually, I think I saw it on Twitter too before we came on too. It's one of those things that we talk about betting the nuts, right? Betting the stone cold nuts, last to act, betting the nuts. It's not an automatic penalty. It's generally going to be a warning, and a warning is a penalty. It's generally going to be a warning or some kind of penalty for doing it. However, there are so many instances, especially in today's world, of not betting it because of informational purposes. Yep. Maybe it's on the bubble, you want to see somebody's cards. I mean, there are reasons why you do not want to bet it. But I think the number one reason why people don't bet the nuts is because they don't realize they have it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so a lot of times it's exactly that. Yeah.
I will generally have newer players that are playing, and they didn't see that they ended up with a straight flush or something. Like, how did you not see it? But they don't see it. Now we don't know for sure if they saw it. So obviously, again, this gets back to collecting as much information as possible. Like, who is the player they're in the hand with? If it's somebody I've never seen before, that does appear to be, and I can kind of spot them, usually if they're newer or whatever, playing against you, and you have no relations with them. Like, do I think they're chip dumping to you and not really? They didn't really want to bet the nuts. Like, so I'm just going to let them know. Be careful on that. But it's that rule is really there to prevent collusion. And, all that kind of stuff.
So Caitlin, it is not a TDA rule. In fact, it's gone away, and I've actually seen a scenario where the one time I ever saw a scenario where it made sense to not bet the nuts. But what I was gonna say is I've told this story a couple times. This happened to me during the LAPC. I couldn't believe it. Someone actually checked back a royal flush to me, and it's completely an accident. Obviously, they just didn't realize it. They'd flopped a set of aces. The board ran out 4 to a flush Broadway, and they were so upset that their set of aces turned into Broadway that they just checked. and when they flip their hand, it's a royal flush. And Sammy Beshahead was sitting next to me, and he looks and he's just like, if I didn't know this guy right here, I would call the floor. You checked a royal flush, but I know it's fine, but yeah. So
it's good to hear that you use judgment, because even sometimes when I see like an inexperienced player do something and the floor gets called over, as soon as they get called over, I say he didn't mean it, and I'll just like literally tell the floor that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you come to the table, you're definitely looking at the reaction of the other players too.
Yeah.
And especially players that you've known for a while. Like I saw, like Jeremy's in the chat here. He's been playing, there's a handful of players that like are kind of sticklers for, like, Ty, if you're at the table and I'm looking at something, I'm gonna kind of look a little bit at you to see what your reaction is when somebody's telling the story. Now I'm not going to go all by that, but I'm like the FBI, CSI, whatever. I'm collecting as much information as possible at the table on that. And in the chat, Caitlin's talking about, I know it's WSOP. They have their own rules, and that's kind of one of the things we talked about spreading the pot out too, which is WSOP has their own rules. It's unfortunate, like Jack Effel's on the TDA board, but they don't use TDA for WSOP. They use their own.
Right.
Now, Matt and Jack have gone back and forth saying that mostly all the rules are there. But there are these TV rules, if you will, about talking about hands and certain things that they do a little different, because it makes for good TV.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. So we outlined some of the differences with the WSOP rules that they had this year that Kevin Mathers was pointing out. And we outlined, I think Derek last week mentioned the pot spreading thing, and we saw in the World Series rules it's actually in there. They tell them, go ahead, you can spread the pot. Whereas, at the Gardens, I believe, so we looked at the TDA rules, and there's nothing in it explicit either way. So our take was your interpretation of the TDA rule is that we don't spread the pot, right? Is that fair?
It's pretty straightforward. I saw that post from K-Matt too, Kevin Mattis. That they specifically added the dealer to spread the pot. Now, it's like poker's a game of skill. continuous observation, all of those things that we talk about, right? So your strategy, your skill gives you whatever edge. You're just looking for that little bit of edge, Ty or Derek. Whatever you can do, right? It's your responsibility to know what the blinds are. It's your responsibility to make sure you get 2 cards. If somebody raises pre-flop and then 3 callers and then the flop comes out, and if you ask the dealer, dealer, who raised pre-flop? Should the dealer tell you who raised pre-flop?
So yeah, I don't think that one is necessary at all, especially not on the flop.
No,
Yep, not on the flop.
I'm saying, like, should the dealer help you out to remember what happened?
No. I think the dealer should say raise in the amount personally, but I don't think they should remind you what happened in the past at all. No.
But if you ask the dealer,
Yep.
dealer, who raised pre-flop?
Yep.
Was it under the gun or was it the button? Like, who was it?
Yep.
The dealer should never answer that question.
Nope,
so
never.
Moving back to our question about the pot size, if in non-pot limit games, right, which no limit is a non-pot limit game, the dealer is not there to tell you how much is in the pot. So for them to assist you in any way about the pot size would go against the entire rules of the game. So the fact that they even added that in the WSOP, it just, I'm like dumbfounded that they would even add that specific lingo, because the only reason a player would ask you to spread the pot, right, is to, in general, to during the actual game itself, is to know how much is in the pot to try to count the pot. And so now the dealer, if they're spreading the pot, would be assisting you on how much the pot is.
And I totally get where you're coming from, and I respect your I respect where you're coming from there, and I'm totally fine with that ruling. Personally, I'm from the point of view where that is kind of public information, like the chips are physically there, and it's like for me, anything that is you could instantly see in an online HUD should be just available. Like everyone's stack sizes, pot size, the blind level, that kind of stuff, number of players left, that kind of thing. So for me, the spreading the pot's not a big deal, but I totally see where you're coming from, and once we know, it's not a big deal.
Because I actually brought that up, I think, a couple years ago at the TDA Summit, because we're not allowed to tell them the pot size. They're not allowed to bet the pot size. However, when you play online, the pot size is right there all the time. So I'm like, hey, why not let us? I mean, it's there. Well, the difference is that is online. This is brick and mortar, right? And so online, you lose that edge of knowing what the pot is. And in brick and mortar, then you have that edge over somebody else that isn't following the action. Okay, he raised it to this amount. He called. The blinds were this amount. I know it's a $25,000 pot, right? 25.
I totally like. Yep.
So another thing, I actually talked to a couple dealers about this, and the dealers. So one of the things dealers are taught to do in a non like high-low game, right, pot limit game, is when the chips go in the middle, is you push them down. You don't leave the stacks in 20.
Yep, you knock them over.
Push them down, you knock them over. Hey, think about that for a second. Why do we do that, right? We would, if we left them up there, we're assisting. Also, once the chips are put into the pot, the main pot, a dealer should not touch that pot again. That's another procedural thing dealers shouldn't do, because I can easily put my hand over and palm chips or do whatever.
Yeah.
Now that would be a dirty
it's
dealer.
A cash.
It's a procedural thing again. This one,
totally fair.
It's not even. Obviously, it's not written one way or the other in the TDA, like we said. But what we do know for sure, what's written in the TDA, is that
the dealer will not assist with the pot size. With
the pot size.
Got it.
And there are 2 major scenarios that we're going to count the pot, right? Is if somebody says 5 and they don't say 500 or 5,000, the tournament director or the floor can count the pot.
Sure. Yep.
Right. The only other time I can think of it where any of this would come into play is if you're about to award a pot and somebody thinks the pot's wrong.
Right. Sure.
They think the pot is wrong. But if the action's on you and you're facing a bet or the action, no dealer should do that. So I'll be very adamant at the TDA Summit to make sure we do put in language. Which will be the exact opposite of what the WSOP just put in there.
Sure.
There is, it's like Poker 101.
Yeah.
And this isn't and Derek, this isn't assisting or not or being negative towards new players. You know what I mean? This, there's not an angle here with the pot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's negative, but I do think the WSOP probably does it because they just almost lean on everything that helps amateurs in some way. But again, I don't disagree with your reasoning.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying is correct.
Yep. I think we both see where you're coming from, and we are fine with it and agree with your logic, and we just prefer the other way, and that's I think that's what you'll kind of like the last card off the deck thing. I think this is what you're going to run into when you go to the TDA and bring it up. Everyone will be like, yeah, we get that, but every player is going to complain, so we're just going to keep it the old way, and we'll see if we can win that battle.
So I usually use logic, reason, and experience for my arguments, and so and sometimes they people do go different against that, but I can tell you, and I don't agree with all the rules in the TDA. And I've made that announcement in tournaments. Like, and I don't agree with all the rules, everybody, but I am here to enforce them.
Yep.
Right?
No, and we appreciate that. We absolutely appreciate that.
So.
Yep, for sure. So let's jump on to the other thing that everybody, the right after not being able to eat at the tables, this is the number one thing that everyone wants to talk about. The WPT. We have the circuit finally coming back to LA, going to Commerce. You guys ran a great WPT last year, Keywin won it, suited Superman, and then all WPT stuff came off the walls. So give us some hope. Is there any chance we get it back? Is there anything in the works? Is there anything you can tell us? Do you even think it's important to get the WPT back? I mean, maybe a loaded question since you are in Club WPT stream team here, but what do you got for us?
So with the World Poker Tour, so we were an official WPT tournament room, and we had an event last May, televised event, and we had the WPT, satellite spectacular promotion where you play, you earn, and then you get to play in an event which sends you to the World Championship. So does that sound familiar to you by any chance?
Yeah, I played in that free roll. I got beat down.
No, but I'm saying there's a promotion.
Oh, the one that's just like it. Yeah.
Very similar to that. But anyway, let's stay on point. So from May through that, we had the big World Championship in December at the Wynn and all of that. And we obviously had some players make some good runs and players in the prime events as well. We that went all the way through the end of the year, through December 31st. So the official WPT tournament year room was an all year round thing that we were doing, a promotional thing. So that's what we're not officially doing anymore. I can tell you that the partnerships with the a main series events, whether it's WSOP circuit, right. WPT,
can we
just all of these things, it really comes down to, and this is where don't dodge, just answer the question. It really comes down to the local landscape and the global landscape. And what I mean by that is the calendar, right? The calendar where things are, it's kind of tough because we used to do a WPT event in January and in July. We actually used to do 2 WPT main tour events. We did a 5K in July. We did a 10K in January.
You mean LA? You mean LA overall?
No, ours at the Gardens.
Really? Oh,
the World
okay.
Poker Tour used to be at the Gardens twice a year.
Wow.
So we would open their season essentially in July because they would go dark during Poker Summer Camp, right? WSOP. And then they, as far as North America wise, and we would start the season off in July. And then they would go to Choctaw, then Legends, and they just go throughout, and then Seminole.
Well, I hear there's a gap when Legends used to be a WPT. I don't know. I've heard that there's no longer a WPT during Legends, so there may be an opening. Just saying.
So when you look at that, right, that's what it was. So when we came back after the pandemic and everything like that, right, it was how can we fit this in? How can we do it? We still want to do televised. So, it's a longer story. I'm just trying to give you the history of it because I don't know how much people really know about it, but I also don't know how much people really want to hear about it. But
we want to know, is it coming back in the next year, Cavin? We want to know. We get our hopes up. That's what we want to know.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, to really answer the question, it's really comes down to the global and local calendar. And we're trying to, the Gardens and all the other properties in Southern California and WPT and all of its other, competitors, global competitors, if you will. that to put on an event when another major event is going, it's not good for the ecosystem.
Right.
And we saw that obviously in December, where somebody deliberately went over the top of somebody else that had put it out 8 months ahead of time. Somebody puts that out.
I'll say the World Series in Paradise stomped on the beginning WPT. They missed their guarantee by a little bit. That's we saw it. It was it was vicious.
Certain things like that, and I know so I think that's really answering your question, Ty, is that the specific casino properties and the tours, there's just so many moving parts. So to get, in other words, and I think Mo answered to you guys, hopefully, right? Like you guys had asked him about Legends and WPT, and he said, hopefully, or whatever the case may be, and he's dealing probably with the same type of things. Maybe a little different on our end because, like I said, a lot has to do with those calendars. What I am optimistic about, though, and I think this is what you really want to know, is I think things are going to start to fall into place and settle down this year because, again, we just came back a year and a half ago with these events.
Okay. Yep.
A lot of those calendars got shifted around, right? Like Aussie Millions disappeared, right? The Poker Star Caribbean things, like these global things. WPT, changed the 5 Diamond to this big Win Championship, which takes place a little bit later in December as opposed to early. I mean, and then the same thing with the LA market, right?
Yeah.
There's some shifts to those. So what we need those, and this is a California thing, but we need those tectonic plates to shift and lock so we can actually kind of, because it's all about planning, right? If you just throw out hey, we're going to do a WPT event and it's going to be in 3 weeks, well, it's not going to be that successful, which is to Derek's numbers that he put out about a month ago or so. But if it's 6 to 8 months ahead of time, and everybody knows about it and it's coming, and then there's nobody that going over the top or competition. Well, we're going to see those WPT numbers or whatever numbers, right, on those traveling tours or global tours. Those numbers will be higher because LA does have it, and a lot of people travel from Vegas to LA and vice versa.
To your point, even in the LA market, and I you jumped on this. I really applaud how quickly you guys jumped on the knowledge that typically, for instance, Commerce typically has the California State Poker Championship, I believe, during this time slot, and it's typically like over a month long. But instead, they announced the circuit event, it's a 2-week series. It's really only 2 weeks, honestly, and you got that created a gap, right? And I'm guessing that was not anticipated at first. You jumped on that to put the encore out there, so that was great. So they're going to do, it looks like, another one in November, which means that instead of a month plus long series, they're going to be doing maybe another 2-week series, which could create another gap. So, I think what I'm hearing is I feel like these are the sort of things you're talking about with things settling out. Maybe some of these other properties, they end up with a more stable, their new stable schedule. Maybe there's some bigger holes that you can fill. And that seems really exciting for me because, with them being circuits, if you could jam another really big national event right next to it, give people more of a reason to come to LA for a longer time and blast both of these things, that could be awesome. And 2, even if you don't do those sort of things, a secondary question we were seeing a lot on Twitter and from people like Matt Salzberg and another guy, Orez Derek, they were asking, well, even without that, you guys are so successful, and Caitlin's kind of saying it in the chat, you guys are so successful, you double every guarantee, you get the players, everyone wants to come there. When are we going to see even more ambitious tournaments from you, even without WPT? You run these 200Ks over the over winter. You got a really big one, right? You had a really big one that first week in January. When and if and when can we expect to see some bigger shot guarantee tournaments here? Can we get a 1400 with a bigger guarantee? Can we get like a 2K, something like that?
So I mean, you guys you guys both played in it. I mean, during the winter we ran 1100 buy-in, 500,000 guarantee, and the key thing here is we only had 3 starting flights, right?
Yeah.
So we ran a 500K with 3 starting flights, and I know Derek and I are on the same page here. We didn't, we've got over 1 million, and we were like, like Derek's like, this can get over 1 million. I'm like, maybe 800, and then it just kept going, and it kept going, and then next thing you know, we're over 1 million, right? And 3 starting flights. So I think that's kind of what like Matt and those guys are talking about, like, they're like, hey, if you tweak the structure a little bit here, and we listened to that, and we added a couple levels there, to give them a couple more levels, even though, I mean, like, you're going to get 15 levels in day one, you're going to get 15 levels in day two, right? It's 1,100 buy-in, like you said, lower rake, and it's a really nice event. It's not a full, all of these starting flights, this and that. So yeah, I mean, we know the formula. We know what it takes to run the bigger events. We've run 25K high rollers. We've run 10K televised events. We've 5,000s. These 1100s have been great. We put a tester out there for the SoCal Special back in September, October, and we ran a 200K and just 2 starting flights. And again, it was about 340,000 like this one we just ran last week. And we're gonna do another one here. And yeah, it's they say only 200,000. Well, yeah, it's only 2 starting flights, right? Like,
yeah,
you could probably do it in 1 starting flight, right? And but obviously, we want to be ambitious, right? But we also got to be responsible, right? So, and it doesn't hurt if you're kind of known for almost doubling the guarantees, right? So people know it's not really. They know it's going to be over 300, maybe 300 to 350, and if it really goes off, it can get up to 400, right? For 2 sessions on that. So, but yeah, we're going to be running more events, and again, I think it's, I would ask everybody's, the patience, because we still have staffing issues, and we still have settling issues, which I just went over by settling, which is, each kind of category of, settling to what those dates are and those things.
Gotcha.
And one of the things I do look for is, you as a player, overlapping events and things like that. It's not good for the, you guys use the word ecosystem all the time. It's not good for the LA poker ecosystem to have, overlapping series or events and things like that. And so yeah, I mean, I can't give you dates right now, but I can tell you that we will be doing more.
Awesome.
The people have already spoken, right? They love our 1100 buy-ins, and we were always kind of pre-COVID, our special thing was the 1 days, right? Everybody's running all these multiple days. We were just running 1 days. Bam, bam.
And this 1 day last Saturday was fantastic. So you still got it. I mean,
yeah. So I can just give you, like, pre-pandemic, we ran a 100K 1 day, and we had 1,050 entries in 1 day. Right. That was the highest that we had for a 1 day event. And you're gonna flip when you hear the price point. Also, it was a $175 buy-in with a $100 add-on. And
with an add-on, and you still got that many entries.
And so but yeah, that was a 100K 1 day, and I remember, I mean, obviously 1,050. It was too much of a round number, like, sound like made up, right? But it was exactly 1,050 entries for a 1 day. But our Friday night tournament was that, it was the tournament every week, in LA. And
could it be the tournament every week again, Cavin? Is there anything we want to say about the Friday night tournament?
If you look behind me, right, we have the 1100 coming up this weekend. So it's only 2 starting flights, Friday and Saturday. It's 1100 buy-in, 11 o'clock on Friday, 11 o'clock on Saturday. Day 2's on a Sunday, which I hear that's what the players want.
That is exactly what we want. Now, wait. But the one more thing that we do want is satellites. There are no satellites on the schedule for this. Are they there? Yeah, are they hidden?
We do have single table satellites we'll be running. We just don't have the megas. And this gets us right exactly to the question you just asked. So instead of having a mega satellite on Friday night, we are actually bringing a Friday night tournament. And that's really what we were just talking about, which is the Friday night event. So we used to have a 30K guarantee every Friday night. And yeah, we would average about, almost 60,000 on the prize pool pre-COVID. Every Friday night, it was the place to be. Everybody knew it. And, the thing is that, it would go till 6 in the morning, but nobody that was at the final table was complaining, right? Because, they were getting in there. So we are bringing a Friday night tournament back this Friday night. So this Friday night, we have the 1100 during the day. Registration closes at, 4:50. And then at 5 p.m., we actually have a Friday evening tournament. It's a 250 buy-in, and it's a 30,000 guarantee, and it is a Monster Stack Turbo. Registration closes at 9, And so that we are actually doing a Friday night tournament, which is a cash. It's a trophy event. It's all of that. And it's really for the players that have been asking for the Friday night tournament. So we did choose to do that instead of a mega satellite. Unfortunately, our staffing, we can't do multiples. We can't do, I mean, we just don't have the staffing to do all of the things we know we know how to run events. We know how, how to do all that, but we just don't have the staffing still for all of that. But we are running a Friday night tournament. So if you really want that Friday night tournament to come back and we have a really good numbers here, that would be a good thing to show everybody of what's, what we can do on a Friday night there as well. And for those that, can't make it in the 1100 or whatever the case may be because they're working Friday, they could still make it. You have until 9 p.m. on that one.
And is that tournament then added to the daily list from here forwards? It's going to be every Friday whenever you're on your dailies, more or less, or?
So that's we're going to have to wait and see on that one.
Okay, it's a wait and see.
Yeah. So like, as you know, the encore, we had our SoCal Spring Special and yeah, we added 2 encore weekends, right? And last weekend was the first encore. So this one is the second encore weekend. And, we're just trying to give players what they're asking for and, another 1100 and then a Friday night tournament. And then Sunday, which will be the last event of these encore weekends, is a in the money super bounty. And it's essentially, you make day 2 of a bounty, the bounties are higher, or a mystery bounty, you make day 2, the mystery bounties are there. So it's basically essentially like that. However, it's a 1-day event. And instead of the negative that I've heard from mystery bounties is when they're not that big, they just kind of don't like it because it takes out a lot from the prize pool. But also it's like so lucky of pulling an envelope, right? And obviously everybody loves seeing, Matt Glantz pull out the 1 million and all that. But we're not doing a 1 million mystery bounty, right? So it's so what this does is it's a 360 buy-in, it's a 50,000 guarantee, and we've been averaging over 90,000 on those. But once you get into the money, so let's just say there's 300 players. Once you get down to 30 players, you're in the money. Once you're in the money, the super bounties come out. And for every player you knock out on those super bounties, it's $500. So it's a $500 knockout super bounty. So you get rewarded for every player you eliminate $500 at a time, and it's a 360 buy-in. So those are going to feel really good. And it's not about like a regular bounty tournament is kind of like a rebate tournament where you get there and it's like 25 or 50, right? And they kind of add them up.
No, that's great. That sounds just like I think what DJ called it when they were running at Commerce was a bounty multiplier. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think people who've been playing in these series will recognize it. And just to summarize, basically, instead of that rebate tournament where you get like a $50 bounty, which is what you'd be used to, instead they all get consolidated 1 in 10 cash, and everyone's worth 10 times as much, that $500 bounty, once you're in the money. So that sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yep, the math is the math. You got it right there. So it's easy to do. And yeah, we do have special super bounty chips that'll be coming out, and those will be in play for the first time coming out this Sunday. So really looking forward to that one. I mean, I wish I could play in some of these. That's one of the tough things about being the tournament director at the Gardens is, I don't get to play in some of these really good events here.
I know, right? Well, you just got to make them so popular they catch on everywhere else, then you can go play at the other places, right? So, now that we're on the topic of what's coming up this weekend, why don't we dig into what's happening in the future here in the LA area, and then we'll we're almost at the roundup time. So, real quickly, one other kind of positive story for the area. I saw this on Twitter, and let me make sure I saw this on Twitter, and I was pretty happy to see it. It looks like the Commerce has sold out its hotel for the circuit. So for those who think that Tournament of Champions, everyone's saying they weren't going to come, they're coming. So that main event for the circuit should be awesome. I'm guessing people are going to come to play the main event if they're going to come for the Tournament of Champions. And the Commerce is all out of rooms, guys. So I think that's a huge downside as far as player experience for the people coming, because our hotels, this one's more expensive than the Commerce one. But I think it's great for the LA poker community because that means a lot of people are coming, right? So I'll take it. I'm glad people are coming out, and that looks like it's going to be a really successful. It's a great sign for the success of that event, which means they'll keep doing it, I hope, which means more people will be having their eyes on LA, right, for poker. So
and the thing is with that, like, when they crush a guarantee, when a quantum crushes a guarantee, or you see something like sold out here and these prize pools get huge at Commerce or any other property, that's just a positive for poker, right? So
Yep.
like for me, I never wish somebody did not hit something, right? Like you want that, because if it's good for like, the other properties, if it's good for a Vegas property and the live streams or whatever, it's good for poker, right? And
Absolutely.
that's really what we want. So we just, we all win when that happens. So like hearing that, what you just said there, I mean, that sounds great, right? Because we're going to get that. We want those people to travel here and make that a stop. And yeah, I mean, they're going to, like you said, they're going to have 2 stops a year. So that, that's just going to bring that excitement to it, you know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. So we will cover, obviously, next week, once this, once the SoCal Encore is done, we will cover the circuit. We'll switch to covering the circuit full time. But for now, it is... It's time for the roundup. So this weekend, obviously, let's start at the Gardens. It's the #1 thing happening in town. So Cavin, you already covered some of the main points. Obviously, where did my schedule go? This weekend, you've got the main event, the 1100 happening. You said flights on Friday and Saturday. Fantastic. Those are the exact days we want them on. And then you have the Monday or the Friday night, and you said that registration starts at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah, tournament starts at 5 and registration is going to close at 9 p.m.
All right.
Being a Monster Stack Turbo, the idea is to have it done by about 1:30 or so.
All right.
Not 6 a.m. Right.
I will probably be coming down and jumping in that guy. So that is happening this weekend. As he said, the bounty, the Super Bounty happening on Sunday. That starts at 11 a.m. And the day 2 restart for those who make it through the main event here starts at 12 p.m. Now that is going to wrap up the encore for this week, and I imagine you'll be back to your regular daily schedule after the encore. Yeah, correct?
On that, what you have on screen right now. So we do have our regular scheduled ones tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday.
Yep.
So the 130 buy-ins and the 10,000 guaranteed, which averages over 25K, which is $25 knockout match. So we do have our regular schedules on Wednesday, Thursday. But yeah, after the encore weekend, the second one here, then yeah, we'll be back to all of our regular scheduled. And then, of course, I know everybody will be looking for an announcement regarding maybe an addition to that regular schedule, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, and then the other kind of big out of the ordinary event happening this weekend is the promo tournament over at Commerce to get their big tournament package, their sponsored pro thing. So anyone who's been grinding hours over there, and I did make it, I made it, I've got my ticket. So unfortunately, I'm actually really torn and bummed about this. I'm still not committing, not firing a bullet in the 1100. But anyone who qualified, got those hours, that is also this Sunday at noon over at Commerce to try and win that. Really, it's just this awesome mega satellite, really, but the tournament package over there. So those are the two kind of unusual and super cool things happening this weekend. Aside from that, we have our regular dailies happening over at the Hollywood Park. They have their schedule out and if you guys are listening over there, it'd really be nice if you put your schedules out before the very last day of the month. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to see this maybe a week in advance or something, for folks who want to know. But they have their normal events highlighted, I guess, on Sunday with a 10K bankroll builder. It's looks like a 100 plus 100 event. Nothing too out of the ordinary for them this weekend. And then Lucky Lady, same thing. They're just kind of having their regular dailies as well as Commerce's regular dailies. So nothing real out of the ordinary. Any place else, just kind of the regular stuff. So what that means is basically you should be down at the Gardens this weekend, unless you got a ton of hours at Commerce and you've been grinding. Maybe you try there on Sunday. But for the rest of the time, definitely should be at the Gardens. Those are going to be huge. They double all their guarantees. And as we've spent an hour and a half talking about, we love the way Cavin runs his room. So get on down there, guys. Woo! Man, Cavin, this is almost 2 hours. This is our longest episode ever.
Well, we do have a couple more announcements to make.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. So I'm going to let Cavin take it over for the last bit right here. He's got a few more things that he wants to get out to the people.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we have the that was a great point too about they having an event on Sunday, which is a day 2 of ours, where that's the whole scheduling conflict thing that we do try to avoid. It would be nice, right? But sometimes you just can't you can't go against it, or or do you can't foresee those
Yep.
things too. So it does happen. But yeah, we will have all of our regular scheduled events coming up too, and we do traditionally do events at the end of May, the last 2 weeks of May. And
Oh,
so,
I know.
just give you guys and Ty knows he has a trophy, which is behind him right there. There's Ty's trophy from last May there on that. And then he went and got married and all that stuff. And so you've got plans in June, right, already? I'm going to interview
That's
you
right.
real quick. What are you doing the first couple weeks of June instead of going to poker summer camp?
So, well, I'm as everyone knows, I hate mystery bounties, so I'm skipping that thing over in Vegas, and we are gonna go on a cruise. Our anniversary-ish time will be on a cruise up in Alaska, so that'll be my relaxation before poker summer camp.
Nice. So yeah, and then right before you leave onto that cruise, you'll probably be at the Gardens playing in the Memorial Day weekend events.
I hope, but you didn't put the schedule out in time before I booked, so I got my fingers crossed that the schedule lines up for me, man. Lay it on me.
When are you taking off?
I'm taking off right at the very, very end of May. So, what is that last day in May? Like the Friday, the last day of May is like the 30th or something, right?
Oh yeah, so we're good.
We're good.
So
Okay, phew.
Yeah, our Memorial Day weekend events go. Memorial Day is going to be on May 27th. So, and then of course the day after that is when they like to have the employee events and all the other stuff in Vegas. So yeah, we generally do the last 2 weeks, but of course, again, like I said, we try to cooperate as best we can to it help better for the players and all of that. With them doing the circuit events and all of that. So we're just going to do a 1 week special, which is going to feel very similar to our SoCal Specials, if you will. But generally, traditionally, we do a lower buy-in with a nice bigger guarantee. So a couple more starting flights. We still don't do a lot of starting flights, but essentially, schedule will be coming out shortly. But make sure to at least lock in those days for basically from like May 23rd through May 27th, which is Memorial Day weekend at the Gardens Casino. So that's something that has been approved. We will be doing. We just not have released all of the details yet, but the dates are locked in. So we will be doing that, and that's going to be Memorial Day weekend. And one thing I did want to go over that we didn't go over was the whole SoCal special thing. That's a concept. That's a concept of we started it back in the fall to test it out. We have our winter series, but what we do is this is the SoCal Spring Special, right? It's like a weekend or a week long thing type of, and so we'll have a summer one, we'll have a fall one, and then we'll have that culmination of like the winter thing. So it's kind of like that, which I think the 1,100 to 1,400, 1,500 buy-in players, and it still gives the local recs a chance to get into those types of event, where it's kind of like, it's just a week-long special, but it's a SoCal thing. We're not expecting a lot of people to travel. Maybe people from Northern California, Vegas, or Arizona will come here. But really, it's a SoCal special where it is that. So it is a year-long thing on that. And as things settle, and we talked about, we'll add some, couple week type of series events with maybe some bigger acronyms that you guys would like.
All right. No, I love it. I love it. That would be amazing. Bigger guarantee. I mean, even if it just becomes known that the Gardens always runs a 1 million guarantee once a year, like that would be a great start. We would love that.
And
go ahead. I was just gonna say I have some suggestions on what the structure for the Memorial Day tournament should look like. I'm pretty partial to this one you ran last year.
I'm listening.
It's all just whatever you did last time. It was perfect. It was beautiful.
It was good stuff. Yeah. So real quick too, also getting on that, and that gets back to running the big guarantees that you just mentioned. You kind of reminded me of that. Is when things are settled and locked into play, like we talked earlier, when you it's there every year. I mean, that's why certain events just become that great, is because everybody knows on their calendar, right? When Coachella is, or when what I mean. When the World Series of Poker is. Everybody knows when the WPT World Championship is now. Like, it's locked in. You know it. You are planning for it a year, 2 years. I mean, people plan for years ahead of time, right, to go play in the main event at
Yep.
the WSOP, right? So because they know when it's going to be. Like, so that's something I'm looking forward to happening in the LA market as we move forward in the next, 6 to 12 months or so, is trying to get those kinds of things. And then, yeah, you guys will know, all right, we're doing this, we're doing that, like you guys do already, but it'll be, you guys didn't even know a few weeks ago if there was going to be a circuit, a tournament of champions and
Right.
circuit event here and all of that. And so, yeah, just imagine if it is here again next year, and the next year, now it's
Yep.
locked in for a few years. Like, it's just going to grow. It's just, it's just better for all the properties and just the poker community. And that, like I said, that's what it's all about. It's what's good for the game, which, that's what I'm about. What is good for the game. If it's good for a Poker Go here on that, or if it's good for a Triton over here, well, it's just good for the game, right? If it's good for like a Hustler Casino Live, right? Live stream, any of that stuff, right? If it's good for the game, it's good for us, because we're in this community, in this space, and that's what we're trying to do, grow the game. So
Yep.
if it's good for the game, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Yep. I love it. I love it. I love your attitude. It definitely comes out in the Gardens. That's why we love going down there. It's why we love seeing all the stuff you're doing down there, and can't wait to see what's happening in the future. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Cavin. Thanks for the time. Thank you, everyone in the chat who came to support Cavin and us and getting the questions. I hope we got most of them. He's very active on Twitter, so if we didn't get to him, hit him up on Twitter. And it sounds like we're probably gonna have to have him on again. So hopefully, next time next time we get some of those acronyms happening, maybe, or something else we're talking about, we'll have him on for sure. So appreciate it, everyone. It's been a long one. Thanks for sticking with us. That is all we have for you this week. Right, Cavin? That's all the announcements we got. Anything else?
Yeah, I just
That's
want to
it.
say one more time to the chat. I mean, just everybody. I mean, I recognize so many of the names, the people playing around in LA and online and things like that. So just, I mean, it's just a special. Some of them are just trying to get to that next level. Some of them are grinding. Some of them are super fans. They're just so it's much appreciation for everybody being in the chat. Thank you so much for coming out. And the biggest thanks I do want to say is to you two guys again, Derek and Ty. I mean, you guys are putting in the work every single week. You guys are out there playing. I know you guys got your 9 to 5s and whatever. But the thing is that you are, putting in the work for the community, and you're a voice for it. And like I said, you guys are relentless on it, and I think that's what you need to be. And you guys are doing it. A lot of people will start something and they don't keep it going sometimes. So so just a big, again, appreciation for both of you guys, Derek and Ty. So thank you guys, and everybody in the chat. Subscribe, follow these guys, because like I said, they're doing it right, and they're actually walking the walk, talking the talk. They're out there playing. They're in people's ear. They're trying to make things better. They're not over there complaining. They're actually trying to make things better, and they're actually getting out there and playing and giving you action and everything. So they're here for the community. That's why I'm actually on here, because like I said, I haven't missed a show, and they're genuine. And so yeah, definitely subscribe to the LA Poker Roundup. And again, much appreciate everybody in the chat, and of course you too. So I'll let you sign us off and everything. So thank you guys.
Yep. Thank you once again, Cavin. Thank you, everyone in the chat. And man, get out to the Gardens, and we will see you at the tables, guys.